a lot of people, they will think that they listen, okay, but they're not really listening, okay? And they do a lot of things, like I mentioned there, where they're doing, for example, mind reading. Mind reading is like when I think I already know what you're going to say, okay? Or then they'll do something where they just deflect onto themselves with every time someone says something, right? Or they'll do comparing, like whenever I say, like, yeah, I bought a new car, they're like, yeah, I'm thinking of buying a new car, right? Like, it's that kind of thing. So a lot of the people, firstly, they're not listening. They're not listening, right? And then secondly, the people that are listening, there's usually issues in the way they're listening, right? Like even if I'm trying to listen to you, I'm still thinking about, oh, what am I going to say to her? Or, what am I going to say next? And it's like they're not really there. They're not really present. And then another thing with the listening is even if I listen to you, I'm listening to you with my meaning. In university, I didn't study much. I just messed around and had a good time. So when you're saying I'm studying in Germany, if I'm truly listening to you, I should know that that is according to your definition of what studying is. If I try and use my definition of studying, I'm actually saying something different to what you're saying. I'm listening to something different to what you're saying because you have a different version of what studying means to you. And I have a different version of what studying means to me. So when you say you're studying in Germany, if I listen to it and think about it like my experience of studying, that's not really listening to it. When you're listening to people, one of the best things we can do is we can come from nothing. Like we try and do it in a way that we know nothing about this person. We don't know nothing about what they're saying. And we have to get all the clarification from them. We have to listen to them without all of our own baggage, our own stuff and all of this. It's like if a guy's divorced or a woman's divorced, right? And then she's like, oh, some guy comes to her and starts complaining about his wife. And he's divorced already. He's like, yeah, women, they're just like this, or men, they're just like this. And they're just bringing their own baggage into the conversation. So I think there's different levels of listening. The first thing I would say in terms of actually doing something about this is I would say that awareness is important. So like you're realizing that, maybe I'm not so good at listening. And I think this is a really, really good conclusion to come to, because no matter how good you are at listening, chances are you could be a lot better. So I think definitely, the awareness that you have and the thing that you've realized, this is, alhamdulillah, this is a blessing and this is really good. But at the same time, I would see listening as a muscle. Okay? It's a muscle. What I'm saying is that this stuff is a muscle. And so if you're not good at this, or you're not good at lifting weights, or you're not good at maths, or you're not good at any of this stuff, the great thing about it is that the way Allah has created you is that you can actually improve in all of these things. Right? So if you're not good at listening, the first thing, like you said, is to have that awareness that, okay, look, maybe I'm not so great on listening. I need to improve. Secondly, to realize that this is just like a muscle. I can actually get better at it. So I might be the worst at listening right now. I might be terrible, but I can definitely get better. I can definitely get better, and I can keep getting better as well. Right? And then if I was to kind of bring it down to one thing, fundamentally, because one of the things I tell people to do is that when you see someone doing something you want to be able to do, don't just look at what they're doing, rather look at the way that they think. Because if you can mimic their thinking, you will mimic their actions and everything else normally. So when I'm here, like ultimately what I would say that helps me listen more than I would say the average person, actually is just caring about the person. I think if you really care about the other person, I think that would really increase your listening. And this is why I always tell coaches, someone says to me, I want to be a coach, I want to be a coach. I'm like, look, one of the most important things is that you got to care for the people. If you care deeply for people or the person that you're helping, that's half the battle. And I think sometimes when we get into these situations where we're not listening properly, I don't think there's enough care. I don't think there's enough empathy. So for example, like let's imagine that, me and you, we're talking and we're outside and we're talking and there's like lots of noise and there's like construction happening and all of that. And we're trying to talk to each other and it's very hard to hear you. It's very hard to listen to you. It's very hard to connect to you. Okay. But if we're sitting in a silent room and everyone's relaxed and everyone's got coffee and they're just like chilling and they're relaxed and it's silent, and it's much easier to listen. It's much easier to connect with people. When I was on the helpline, there were some people who were coming and they were going through really tough things. If seriously, like, you think this is hard, this is why this is easy. Because the stuff I went through on the helpline, it was a million times harder than this level. When you hear about people who are going through sexual abuse, I'm talking like extreme sexual abuse as children, and then there's people who want to commit suicide, and like after that, this stuff seems like very like trivial, right? It's not trivial, but it does feel like that, right? But what I realized on the helpline is that either I'm going to be in like judgment mode or I'm going to be in helpful mode. I can't be in both. Okay? If I judge them, my ability to help them will be reduced. So you have to come to a conclusion. So it was like, what do I want to do? Do I want to help them or do I want to judge them? Those are my two options. I have no other option. Judge or help. Okay? Imagine you were sitting in front of me, right? And I thought you were useless, and I thought you were irrelevant, and I thought you were nothing. Like, the way I would listen to you, maybe I wouldn't even listen. If you sat in front of me and I was like, wow, Reem is here. Like, she's amazing. She's so valuable. She's like the best person I've ever met. She's so important to me. When you speak, like, I'd be listening very differently. And so the way we look at people, the way we perceive them, the value we give to them, that has an effect on it as well. And I have this big belief that I believe like everyone's valuable, and I believe that you have something of value to give.